Welcome to the 508 ITV orientation video. This video will cover the look of the 508 rooms, the equipment that's in the rooms, and best practices for teaching in ITV. The rooms are set up with 3 HD TVs, 2 at the front and 1 on the back wall. It also comes with 2 cameras. We have one on top of one of the TVs in the front and that faces the students. We have another one at the back of the room, over the back TV, that faces the instructor's podium. We also have an instructor's podium in the front that has a monitor for the PC, the document camera, and surfaces for working with the Tandberg. In some rooms you also have a touch panel screen.
Each 508 ITV room is equipped with both a PC and a document camera. Some of them have panels, touch panels for controlling the system, and some of them rely on a remote control. In this room currently we have a panel. I believe we're switching that to a remote control soon. The PCs are set up so that you can actually display whatever you pull up on the PC over the ITV system to your students at the remote sites. It's as simple as just pushing a button on the panel or pushing a button on the remote, and boom, your students can see whatever you're displaying. So if you have a PowerPoint you want to show, if you have a web page you want to show your students, it's easy to do that. In fact, I'm pretty sure the audio on the computers will play over the system as well. So you could, if you're playing a video on the computer screen and then displaying that, the video is going to be a little choppy, but I believe the audio would at least be normal. So if you have a sound clip or something like that you want to play for students at the remote sites, you're totally able to do that. If you do not want to use this desktop PC, if you're used to using your own laptop, for example, we do have this little switcher here. You have the ability to switch between using the desktop in the room or a laptop that you bring in. It's got a little blue LED light on it. When the light is blue, actually that means that you're using the desktop. The desktop is active. And then if you push the button, you plug in your laptop here, and you push this button, that LED will turn green, and that means that your laptop is active. So that's the PC. Like I said, we also have a document camera. Document camera is really cool. This camera is very, very powerful. You can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. We have our zoom buttons here. If you put something down and it's blurry, you can hit this autofocus button and it should become crisp. It zooms in just really, really tight, like I said. The power switch is on the back. This is really important. If you come into the room and you want to put the document camera up and you think, okay, I'll just switch to the document camera using the panel or the remote, and you just see a black screen, well, that means the document camera is probably not turned on. You just got to make sure you have it turned on. It's the same with the PC. If you switch to a source and that source is just showing black in the ITV rooms, that means that that source is just not turned on. So that's the document camera and the PC. Again, if you want any one-on-one help with these, or you want ideas on how you can use these in your class to kind of engage your learners, especially pulling in the learners at the remote sites, please schedule an appointment with me. I'm happy to work with you. Hi, my name is Jedediah Esposito, and I'm here to share with you some best practices for teaching via the 508 ITV classrooms. ITV is a little bit of a different animal than teaching in a regular classroom. Specifically, you're going to notice that time is sort of amplified in the ITV classrooms. If you have, in a regular classroom, 2 minutes of downtime where your students don't know what to do, that can seem like a little bit of a long time, but it's not catastrophic. You can get them back pretty easily. In ITV, 2 minutes of downtime for the students at the remote sites can feel like, what's going on? What are we supposed to be doing? Should we be here? I'm just going to talk to my friend now. So you need to really try and structure your lessons so that downtime is minimal. If you know that you're going to be switching between things and you need a minute or two to take care of that, then you need to be able to give the students at the remote sites something to do, something to think about while you're doing that. That brings me to my next point. It's good to have, to identify a responsible student at the beginning of the semester, if you can, on each campus. Once you have that student identified, you're going to be able to depend on that student to do things like mute. Muting is probably your most important ally in an ITV classroom. If you mute your site, then the students at the other sites won't hear you. That's really helpful if you're having sort of breakout groups. You can say, hey, Bullhead, I want you to discuss this issue, but you're going to need to mute yourselves so that we don't hear you over the ITV system. The microphones in here are extremely sensitive. They'll pick up papers rustling. If your students are telling secrets in the back of the room in Bullhead, you'll hear them. You'll hear all their secrets. So you need to let them know that. In fact, on the first day of class, it's a really good idea to just go over these same things that I'm going over with you with the students. ITV is really sensitive. I need to teach you guys how to use the mute controls. In fact, ask if a student has taken a class in ITV before. You might find that someone knows how it works, and that'll be really helpful to you. I also want to touch on what to wear and what not to wear in ITV. Since you're going to be on TV screens, cameras are picking you up. A lot of things that look fine to our natural eye don't really work well on cameras, especially these kinds of cameras and these kinds of screens in these rooms. You don't want to wear stripes. Stripes can be really busy looking. They can look like they're vibrating on the screen. Zigzags, things like that. Those things can be really distracting to the learners in your classroom. If you have beautiful jewelry that you want to wear that's just bright and shiny and gleaming and big and maybe makes noise, those are things that are really going to distract your learners. If it's shiny, the cameras, it might be reflective. If it's making noise, the mics will pick it up. So you want to be really aware of how you dress. I'm not saying, don't try and look nice. Absolutely try and look nice and professional, but just be careful so that you're not being distracting to the people on the other end. So that's sort of the crash course in best practices for ITV. I do have some different tools, and if you're looking for specific ideas on how to format lessons via ITV, please feel free to contact me. Again, my name is Jedediah Esposito. I'm the instructional designer, and I work in the Office of Instruction, and I'm happy to set up one-on-one appointments, so feel free to contact me. Thanks. So this is the ITV control remote for the 508 rooms. In some rooms, like I said, we have this panel, and in some rooms we have the remote. They both do exactly the same thing. There's really nothing that one does that the other can't. The remote is probably the most handy. The one thing that you do want to know is when you're using these remotes, you need to point them at a camera. The room has two cameras. You can point the remote at either one, but if you point it at the camera, then whatever you pushed will actually happen. If you don't, it might not pick it up. So essentially there's buttons you want to stay away from on the remote and on the panel, and there's buttons you want to be aware of how to use. Probably the most important button, hands down, is going to be the mute button. This yellow button here at the top says mic off. We call it the mute button, but essentially that's what it does, is it turns your microphone off in your room. Okay, so it's important to note what that does is it's going to mute the sound coming out of your site. If you're in Kingman and you push this button, then the people at the other sites won't hear you. You will still hear them. Okay, so if people in Bullhead are being really noisy and you need them to be quiet, or you need to talk to the people in Kingman or something like that, you can ask the people in Bullhead to mute themselves. So that's why it's really important. Like I said, you need to have a contact on each campus for your classes. Other important button down here on the side, we have our volume. This is just the volume in your room. Okay, so if you're not hearing people in Bullhead, then you can use this volume to turn it up or down. Again, if the people in Bullhead aren't hearing you and you're in Kingman, for example, you need to ask them to adjust the volume in their room using the remote. We also have a green button and a red button here. The green button is to place a call. The red button is to hang up a call. ITV works kind of like a phone system. The units just dial into each other like phones. It's really important that you just don't touch either of these buttons. The way that we use ITV here at MCC, it's all scheduled. The calls happen by themselves and they hang up by themselves. There's never a reason for you as the instructor to have to either call a unit or disconnect from a unit, unless you're talking to tech support and they ask you to do something like that, which they probably wouldn't. Here in the middle, the circle here, this gives you the ability to kind of pan the camera around. So you can pan the camera around and you can zoom in and out using this zoom button on the side. That brings me to our source buttons. When we're talking about video and we say source, that means whatever is active on the screens, wherever the video is getting its source from at that given moment. Like I said, there's 2 cameras in these rooms. There's also a PC and a document camera. So whichever one of those is active is the current source. So across the top of the remote here, we have buttons that allow us to switch sources in the ITV rooms. So this first button lets me use the instructor camera. That's the camera in the back of the room. If I push this, then from then on, when I push any panning controls or zooming controls, I'm controlling that camera. This next button over is for the computer. That'll switch to the computer display. Now you can't really use the pan controls and the zoom controls on the computer. It doesn't work. The next button over is the document camera. And you can't use these pan and zoom controls on the document camera, but the document camera, like I showed in the document camera part of this video, has its own zoom buttons on it. So if you want to zoom in, you can use that. There's also a DVD button. We don't have DVD players or VHS players in these rooms. Actually, we just go ahead and use the computer if you want to play a DVD. And this last button is a little confusing. It's labeled auxiliary, but that is the student camera. That's the camera in the front of the room that faces out into the classroom, faces the students. So if I wanted to move the student camera, if I wanted to pan or zoom in on a specific student, first I would point the remote at the student camera. I would then push auxiliary so that the system knows that's the camera that I want to control. And then I would go ahead and pan and zoom the camera. There are also some number buttons here at the bottom. These really aren't that important. They do have some presets, but they get reset really easily, so it's best if you want to move the camera around, don't worry about using these presets. Just go ahead and just steer the camera that you want to steer. These gray ones at the bottom, there's never a reason to touch them. It's really best to stay away from these gray ones. There's also a couple buttons here at the bottom. You may notice when you're switching sources and displays and stuff that a little picture-in-picture window will come up sometimes, and sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't want it to block the display. If you push this button a few times, this button's labeled layout, you kind of have to cycle it. So you'll hit the button, the picture-in-picture will be in one corner, you'll hit it again, it'll go to the next, again to the next, again to the next, and then if you hit it again, it'll disappear. And so that's how you can get rid of that, or bring it back if you want to, or move it, to different corners. Cancel, if you ever do accidentally hit call or hang up, or you get into a menu or something and you want to get out, just hit the cancel button, and you should be able to get out of that menu that you're in. And then there's the self-view button, and this button's useful if you want to see, basically if you want to see what the students are seeing at the remote sites. You'd hit self-view, it'll show you on the TV screens what those students see. And so that's how you use the ITV remote, and thank you for tuning in.
Let's go over how to hook up your laptop to the ITV system. In this case, we've already pressed presentation on the remote. Now we'll go into how to hook up your laptop and get it to display on the ITV system. At this point, you've got your laptop out and you're ready to hook it up. We have 2 cables here. One is the video cable and one is the sound cable. Put the sound cable into your headphone. Next is the video jack. You have to find the video jack on your computer. As you can see, there's mine right there. It's a VGA port. So what you need is a
port that matches this. And then all we're doing is we're hooking this cable, and it'll only go in one way. It's wide at the top and narrow at the bottom, so we have to find the wide part. So we hook it up like that. And you notice that the system automatically sensed it. Our desktop monitor and indeed the ITV system switched over automatically. But if it doesn't happen to, let me get centered back in here, we have this switch right here. Right now it's glowing green, and that indicates that it's on the auxiliary input, which is my laptop. It's the auxiliary. If you hit the button again, we switch back to the MCC. This is the desktop, which is standard in the ITV systems. So that would be what we would be presenting out on the ITV system now. We'll go back to my laptop, and you see my laptop, and you notice that my screen's display changed so that it matches up with what the ITV system can display. If you're having any trouble with that whatsoever, you want to right-click on your desktop, go to Screen Resolution, and turn your screen resolution down to at least 1024 by 768. You notice that's fairly low resolution. 800 by 600 is the only resolution lower than that it displays. Most laptops will do that automatically, but that is what you need so that it can be compatible with the ITV system. It cannot handle these higher resolutions. So your resolution needs to be 1024 by 768 or less. And if your system doesn't do it automatically, that's all. You just come in here and run this slider down till you get to 1024 by 768. Say apply and OK. And your screen resolution will reduce to the point where the ITV system can now display what's on your laptop. Let's go over the touch panel and how it can control the ITV system. Now, if the touch panel is dark, simply touching anywhere on the touch panel will bring the screen up to this point. At this point, you're ready to press Touch to Start to activate the system. And you see Configuring the System. Now that brings it up, and you can see a view of the classroom. These are the on-screen camera controls. Currently, we're set to the student camera, and these on-screen controls allow you to pan left and right, pan up and down. You can zoom in and out. When you're done messing around, if you hit Room Shot, it will bring it back to the standard shot, stock shot. You can switch to the instructor's camera here by pressing Instructor, and you get the reverse view of the instructor, and you can see that showing up on the touch panel. And you have the same controls here to control the camera. And you see you have stock shots set up as well. And when you're done, you can go back to the stock room shot, and it would get yourself. If you need to use the PC presenter, switch to PC and present whatever you need to get, and then you can switch to the document camera, and there's the document camera. Should you want to have a private conversation in this room that you don't want other sites to hear, you would turn on the mute. If you're having difficulty hearing the other sites, turn up the volume. If the other sites are coming in too loud, you turn it down. Let's go over how to start a PowerPoint presentation on the ITV system. First thing you're going to do is take the remote and press the blue presentation button so that the computer desktop shows on your ITV session, as you can see behind me. Now I'll go over here to the desktop, and I've already got my PowerPoint loaded on the desktop. So I double click the PowerPoint, and then you go to Slideshow from Beginning, and there's your PowerPoint displaying over the ITV system. You can use the keyboard. I've got the keyboard down here. You can use the arrow keys to progress through your PowerPoint show. You can use the space bar to move through your PowerPoint show. Or you can come down here with the mouse and you have these arrows left and right for the PowerPoint show, and they will run your PowerPoint forward and backward. Now when you're ready to end your show, you can come down here, click on this and click End Show. You can always go next and previous slideshow from there as well, slides. So you can click there, or you can right click anywhere in your PowerPoint presentation and click End Show, or you can hit the Escape key. All will get you back to this. And then when you're done, close out your PowerPoint and delete your PowerPoint from the desktop so that it doesn't get clogged up with a lot of files, and you're done. It's just that simple.